Welcome back to the Scaredy Cat Guide, my friends. My name is Jenny, and today we are talking about Journey into Imagination with Figment at Epcot. If you're new here, this is the channel where we talk about Disney and anxiety, we talk about sensory issues, and really just anything that you might want to know if you're an anxious rider at Disney World. Like me. Now, Journey into Imagination with Figment is an interesting attraction. I'm not gonna lie, it is not one of my favorite rides, and the reason is it is very, very, very overstimulating. If you or anyone in your party have any sort of sensory sensitivity like I do, this ride can really be a nightmare. Of course, it is still very fun and really generally pretty family friendly, so it totally depends on the person. But you know what? We're gonna talk about it, so without further ado, let's dive into those details. This Journey into Imagination contains some extreme sensory overload, intense sound and smell effects, and even a simulated explosion. Now, this is an interesting attraction in the sense that really all of its intense elements are all kind of in the same vein. This ride does not go fast, there are no drops, no thrill elements of any kind, but I would definitely call this one a pretty intimidating attraction if you have any sort of sensory sensitivity like I do. And largely what you'll encounter here are a lot of piped in smells, sounds, as well as light and wind effects. Now again, if you have any sort of sensory issues, this attraction is not for the faint of heart. In my opinion, Journey into Imagination with Figment is for sure at the top of the list when it comes to extreme sensory overload in Walt Disney World. So not only is this attraction a journey into imagination, but it's also a journey through the five senses as well. And since a lot of these ride scenes and sequences have to do with the senses of sight, sound, touch, smell, of course, these practical effects really go all out in true Disney fashion. So, for example, when we come across the sound segment, you will find yourself in a dark room and you hear the very, very loud sounds of a train rushing right past you. Of course, this is all done with effects, it's not real, but with the wind effects and the darkness, it really can feel very, very intimidating. They did not shy away from the loud noises or the flashing lights in this attraction, so just be aware that these sequences can feel very immersive. Now, when we enter the smell chamber, you also have a very unpleasant skunk smell. Now, fun fact, something that many of you may not know is the quote-unquote skunk smell is actually just the smell of coffee. But because you're led to believe that it's a skunk smell, your brain fills in the blanks, and I can speak from experience, it really does smell like a skunk. And as many of you may know, Disney rides are no stranger to piped-in smells. You have them on Pirates of the Caribbean, on Soarin', on so many other attractions in the parks. However, this one is a lot more intense. The smell is really, really strong right in your face. It's not just like an immersive element. That smell is there to make you feel uncomfortable. However, if you're really nervous about the skunk smell, if you can really focus on the smell and tell yourself that it's just coffee, it tends to help me have a little bit more pleasant of an experience here. Now, probably the most uncomfortable sequence in this attraction for me specifically is the simulated explosion. Now, of course, this is a very cartoonish explosion. It's not super realistic, but it is very loud. And of course, you've got the wind effects, the big flashing light, and because you're in this small enclosed space in the ride system, it really can just be a lot. Now, of course, and as you can see from this part of the ride, the entire attraction is overall just very colorful and an overstimulating experience all around. So I really just cannot overstress this. If you or someone in your party has any sort of issue with sensory overload or sensory sensitivity, I might just give this ride a skip. Now, really briefly, I will touch on animatronics here. Now, we don't have any humanoid animatronics, but we do have a couple of Figment sightings. Now, Figment is our beloved little purple dragon here, and really the only reason I mention the Figment animatronics is that they are kind of old, a little bit rickety, and very often are malfunctioning in some form or fashion. Now, to me, because they don't really have that uncanny valley humanoid look to them, they're not quite as intimidating as some of the other animatronics you might find in the parks, but I definitely wanted to mention them just in case there's anyone in your party who really does not do animatronics. Now, moving right along, let's talk about those ride vehicles. The ride system here consists of individual cars with 2 rows that seat 2 to 3 riders per row. And on top of that, there are no ride restraints. So if you find yourself feeling kind of claustrophobic with other ride vehicles, this one is pretty palatable, at least in my opinion. Now let's talk about that ride time. This attraction clocks in at 5 minutes and 50 seconds, which puts it on the slightly longer side when it comes to other dark rides in Walt Disney Disney World. Now again, because there aren't too many other claustrophobic elements on this attraction, the ride time, at least for me, didn't make me feel too terribly confined, although I will say, because this is a sensory nightmare like we've talked about before, having that long ride time can definitely double down on that effect. And now that you have all the facts, let's actually go hop in line. I am not super excited, but we're gonna do this together. I believe in us. Let's go hop on. You'll find the entrance to this attraction in the Imagination Pavilion in Epcot. Now this one these days hardly ever has much of a line, so most likely this will either be a walk-on or you won't be standing in line for very long at all. However, once entering the building, you will be treated to some amazing AC and make your way through this office lobby area. There are some very cool Easter eggs in this queue. Of course, it's a little dated. This ride has been around for quite some time, so some of the younger members of your party might not really know what they're looking at, but still a very colorful place to wait, even if it's a bit outdated. Now from here, you'll make your way down this long hallway where you'll pass the offices of some of our favorite scientists from the movies. And before you know it, you will find yourself at the loading platform. Now once hopping inside, the door will close to your little ride vehicle. Like I said, there are no restraints here, and you will set off into this little dark hallway. Now the ride vehicles will rotate slightly and you will be greeted by Dr. Nigel Channing, who is there to give you a tour of the facilities. Now he is very rudely interrupted by our friend Figment as he comes flying in and offers to help give the tour. Now this definitely spells trouble for us, especially if we have that sensory sensitivity that I was talking about before. But before we know it, we are on our way and we find ourselves in the sound lab. Now this, like I said before, is where the freight train sequence takes place. Again, rest assured there is no actual train, but it's very, very loud. It's very immersive, and to me, it always gets the hair standing up on the back of my neck. Now moving right along, we'll have a brief respite in the sight lab where nothing too crazy happens, but we do have a run-in with Figment once again. We see some pretty cool optical illusions as we make our way along, and then finally come upon the smell lab. Now you'll see this interesting little slot machine effect where, unfortunately, it lands on the skunk every time. And as I mentioned before, this is actually the smell of coffee that you will be experiencing, but because your brain is filling in those blanks and you have the light and the sound effects, you really do expect that skunk smell, and boy do you get it. Now luckily you don't stay there for too terribly long, and you make your way down another little hallway with some offices, and luckily Dr. Channing butts in just in time to save you from the touch and taste labs. However, Figment takes the wheel again and you find yourself in his crazy little imagination dreamscape. You'll make your way underneath this upside down house, which was always my favorite part of the ride. I just love looking around at all the little details hanging upside down above you. And after making your way through the house, Dr. Nigel Channing will catch up with you once again, just when you think that the tour is over. However, of course, this is not the case. Figment appears one more time, exclaiming that imagination is a blast, where you have that simulated explosion that we talked about before. Now again, this consists of a very loud bang, a flash, and some wind effects, and suddenly the entire room opens up to this very colorful rainbow dreamscape again that is a little bit trippy and I guess could be fun for some people. Now this is the grand finale, and you'll make your way around this scene, taking in all the glittering spectacle of Figment's imagination. And just as you're heading back to the unloading platform, you will see Dr. Channing's face on the moon for some reason. I've never really understood this part, but it kind of tracks with the rest of this attraction's vibe. And luckily, this marks the end of the ride, and you will find yourself right back at the unloading station. Now a cast member will direct you off and send you down a hallway that will spit you out right back in the Imagination Pavilion in Epcot. And there we have it. What do you think about Journey into Imagination with Figment? It may come as no surprise that this is just not one of my favorite rides. I know it is very much beloved. People absolutely adore Figment, and he's a very nostalgic fixture. And of course, I love Figment as much as the next Epcotian, but this ride I could definitely do without. It's usually a skip for me because I have some sensory sensitivity that makes it really, really uncomfortable. But for many other people, it's just a fun, nostalgic experience that almost never has a wait. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about this attraction. And as always, if you liked this video and you would like to see more ride reviews like it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, stick around, stay a while. We would love to have you in our little community of anxious riders. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.